Hi, everybody. Welcome to the podcast. Not live this time. I'm here with Joey.
Yeah. Hello there.
Yeah, Joey really want to talk about the Palworld getting sued incident, but we couldn't really find time to do a live stream, so kind of doing it a little late right now.
Yeah, we want to hit it while the nail's hot, as it were.
Yes.
But
So, one thing I should
I
probably
kind of want
say
to
is,
hear. Right,
is
right.
maybe go check our last episode we did on Palworld a while back. But
Yep.
this is
Jesse will
interesting
link it.
because
I'm curious about your take on what's going on before I go to my point.
So I said last time that I do kind of want to see the lawsuit between Nintendo and Palworld, but unfortunately this isn't the way I wanted it to go down. you know, I wanted them.
Yeah.
I hate patent trolling like this.
Well, and you think about it too, and this is will lead into my main issue. Um, they did patent a gameplay element. And let me be clear, if it was like an exceptionally specific one, I might have an issue, but I wouldn't have as much of an issue as this being as nebulous as it is. This is live action or turn based included. The mechanic of catching a creature in a ball. Um,
So
that's
I
so
looked at the
nebulous.
patent. It is actually very specific to the way it's done in Arceus.
I mean, to be clear, what the worry here is how will they expand it? Because the big thing to note is this could destroy some semblance of game design by
So
making it so that all you need to do is patent a game and be litigious.
So
Like patent a game.
one thing I want to point out is that this patent that they're using was patented after Palworld was announced. So this is might be a little too late patent situation, possibly.
Well, maybe. I mean, the big thing to note here is all they marketed Palworld as was initially the gunplay. They didn't show off the ball catching really. So
True.
that's the danger. Is if Palworld didn't notate that was exactly what was going to happen prior to Nintendo patenting it, they are still up shit creek.
So one of the things, and this is something I see a lot of people discuss, and I think it's also an important thing. So you remember Shadow of Mordor, right? You played those games?
Yep, and you're gonna go with the Nemesis system.
Yes, fantastic
Yeah.
system would be great in other games. Patent
Oh
and
yeah.
nobody's allowed to use it ever.
Yep. That fucking blows. And it's another issue with me where I'm like, Konami has a stranglehold. I don't remember if it's the blade system that they had in Metal Gear Rising where you could just cut everything in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a system that you haven't seen very much, is it, Jesse?
No, I haven't, have I?
Okay. There's a reason. Konami has a stranglehold on that game mechanic.
Hey, did you know the Crazy Taxi arrow was patented too?
Yup, and that fucking blows as well.
Thankfully, that game is old and that patent's long dead, but you know.
Well, oh, I was gonna say, like, it was still in Underground, so, like, if we notate, it wasn't a long-held patent, because Need for Speed Underground came out, like, maybe 5 to 10 years after
Oh,
Crazy Taxi.
here's another patent that ruined pretty much every game ever. Remember how there used to be mini games during the Dragon Ball Z loading screens?
Yes.
Yes. Oh man, notice how no other games ever have mini games in their loading screens?
Is it because Bandai Namco patented it?
Yeah, and now nobody's allowed to have fun while loading.
That's fucking garbage.
Yeah.
And it's an effective way to keep people playing their games because you know what you think about when you play your games? Other than just the goofiness of the games, you think of how much time there is loading. Now, to be fair, going forward, that's not as big of a selling point. But back in the day, that was a big deal. Like, if I could bring the viewers back to Soldier of Fortune for the Dreamcast, that had a legitimately, like, on average, 5 minutes of loading.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that used to be a thing you did. You needed something to fill the gap.
I've been
Now,
playing.
I'll be real. I'm playing Bloodborne, and that game loads for a second.
A lot of games nowadays are pretty quick on the loading, but like back in the day, oh boy. Actually,
Yeah,
a
no,
lot
you'd
of
be sitting
PC
there.
games still take a while to load. I've been playing Total War Warhammer 3 again for like the billionth
Well,
time,
I,
and God, the
I
loading
think
screens in that one
strategy
can be.
games. I think grand strategy games are a different beast entirely because what they have to do is they have to load a large amount of miniature sprites
Well, you
and
know,
have them
a
on
mini
screen all
game
at
can
once.
really help with that.
It could. I just wanted to notate like there's a reason that
Oh, I know
probably
there's a
has to do
reason,
with that
but yeah.
stuff. But a big thing here is that patent might not be as effective for Bandai Namco going forward to sell games. Right now, to be real, a lot of their games with mini games on the loading screens don't have really any loading screens. Like Tales of Arise, maybe like 5 seconds in their loading screens. It's nothing.
Yeah,
I guarantee you, Sparking Zero, if they have loading screens that they artificially induce, people are going to be more pissed than excited.
yeah. So,
Um,
when that patent would have been nice, Bandai Namco ruined it for everyone. Now that that patent's
but
dying.
but but I would argue that this is more of a Nemesis system style patent, where it cuts into a lot of the heavy end creativity of a main game mechanic.
Oh, yeah. You can never just go around capturing things anymore.
No, and that's ridiculous because that cuts off an entire avenue of creativity. Because what games are at this point are inspirations from other things.
I think a
Like,
great
there's
way
no
I've heard
game.
to describe it is it's like some painter involved invented the color purple and then made it so nobody's ever allowed to use purple anymore.
Yeah.
That's
Like, you know what the big thing to note here is even? They weren't the one to invent purple. They weren't even the first one to fucking do it. It was
oh yeah.
Shinigami Tensei.
Well, we're not
Factually,
talking.
Shinigami Tensei
That's
came
orange.
first.
We're talking about purple here. It's a different thing. They're suing
But
over, but
what my notation here is just like the concept of capturing a creature
oh yeah.
came from them first anyway. So like it doesn't even it's like they know they have enough money to
It's
get away with
it's
this.
not that it's a capturing a creature. It's the specific way you capture a creature.
Right. But like, can we just notate here that Nintendo's going to find a way to pussyfoot around this shit? Like, even if like any of us say, well, it won't hold any merit, this sets a precedent by bringing this to court. This doesn't set a precedent by winning in court. This sets a precedent by bringing it to court on the highest level. And it doesn't matter that Palworld wins the lawsuit, mind you. It matters if they're able to countersue, which I doubt they'll be able to.
So I think Palworld made a shit ton of money, like an absurd amount of money. I think they'll have enough money to get through this.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying they'll physically can't countersue. I'm saying there's no way in hell they'll be able to be successful in countersuing Nintendo. Because everybody who's attempted it in the past has failed. Everybody. That includes companies. So like the problem is these companies that own like the gaming industry, and they do. Xbox may
Oh
be a
yeah.
little bit lesser in the spotlight these days, but like PlayStation and Nintendo own the console gaming industry. And they are able to do whatever the fuck they want because of it. And when they get pushed back, they pivot until people get more like okay with it, and then they'll continue to do that bullshit.
Oh
And
yeah.
it goes further and further that way. And this is just another aspect of them doing this shit. Nintendo's been doing this forever. I mean, ever since they stopped using the Wii U and released the Switch, they've been on that bullshit wagon they were on from, I'll be honest, back during the GameCube all the way up through the Wii. Because they started this once the GameCube came out. They started doing this shit. Like, for a little bit there, on the N64 era, they couldn't afford to because the PlayStation pressured them too much. But once they beat Sega out, they stopped giving a fuck about the competition, even though I'll be real, PlayStation whooped their ass in the first two gens it came out with. And we know this by the numbers. But Nintendo wasn't worrying about whether or not they'll be able to make it. They'd edged out a niche. Nobody was hating the GameCube. Nobody was hating the Wii. Everybody did, and for good reason, everybody disliked the Wii U. They just liked the games that were on the Wii U.
Oh yeah. Wii U had like no games.
No, it had games. That's what I'm saying. Is the Wii U itself was the problem, not the games on the Wii U.
Oh sorry.
Like Nintendo Land as an exclusive was good. Breath of the Wild was good. Mario Kart 8 was good. Donkey Kong Tropical
Well, they
Freeze was
just didn't
good.
use the dual screen aspects very good. There's no point to
I
it.
mean, it's exactly why a good Star Fox game failed to be good, because they forced you to look at both screens at all times, which was like the game itself is good. It's literally just the way you play it that's
See,
the
I
problem,
always
and
thought
that is
like
corrected.
I always thought like if they did something like in Command with that dual screen, that actually could have probably worked. But
Well, if they had a separate gameplay mechanic where you actually send out armadas and have space fights, and you use the second screen to do that, and you look at like, okay, I've enacted my plan, and I watch it play out on the big screen.
and maybe even help
Yes,
out with the plan manually. Yeah, no, it'd work.
yeah, like you're plotting, like you plan on the big screen. You can pause the game and work on the small screen again to plan where people go. It's literally what you do in Dynasty Warriors. That would work great.
You kind of do that
I
in the Fire Emblem Warriors game they did.
it Fire all the Warriors games do that now, but like you don't need a dual screen to do that in the
Yeah.
Warriors games. My concept here is like uh, it's closer to real time strategy because like it's easier to die than it is in Dynasty Warriors, and it's harder to take out enemies in
Oh yeah.
Dynasty Warriors. So like you have a little bit more risk, but I think that was obviously a loss purely because of how the game played on the Wii U.
Oh
If it
yeah.
was released on the Switch, the game probably would have done good. Um, Nintendo's been on this shit though every console generation except for the 64 and the Wii U. Those are the only two console generations that they were making consoles from the NES up, because they made Pong console before that, um, where they were on some shit. Nintendo has almost consistently been on this shit, where they always need to be the big bad boss baby in the room, and it fucking sucks. And everybody suffers creatively when they do this shit. I've told you about the times back in the NES and SNES eras where they basically had a stranglehold on the market, and they kept the game console creators like Amiga and ColecoVision and Atari under their thumbs and forced them to not be able to craft games most
Oh
times
yeah.
of the year. And that's why they it's why we don't have an Amiga and a ColecoVision and any of this other shit anymore. Atari we don't have because they refused to, upgrade their graphical fidelity. They obviously they made a 7200 and then they made the fucking Jaguar, and I'm like, you're gone too long and you didn't know what you're doing. Fuck off.
Well, Nintendo just has a serious issue of not letting people have fun in ways that they don't approve. Saw what happened with the Smash Bros. Tournaments and emulators
Yes.
and
Well, and
modding.
that was before, and what we need to be clear about is that was before the pedo allegations, where a lot of and I'll be clear, a lot of the best Smash players at the time that were like showing up at Evo, we found out they were pedos.
Oh yeah.
But let's be clear again, we have a bunch of more players that aren't pedos and like actually show up for the game for fun. It's kind of like you definitely have a lot of MGTOW fuckers in the Tekken sphere, or wife beaters are like you have a lot of those in the Tekken sphere.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't mean they all are, and it doesn't mean, and it's not an excuse to keep the game from being played at tournaments.
Well, here's the thing. Even before that whole incident, Nintendo's been shutting them down ever since Melee, man. Ever since Melee, they've been preventing tournaments from ever getting too big.
Well, I was actually going to say it was during Brawl that they actually were doing it because, well, namely, they made Brawl the way they did to try to passively undercut any tournament stylization. And you know what it did? It worked. Nobody plays Brawl competitively because of the fucking slip mechanic. I'll be real with you. People probably would and been like, this is an okay game if it did not have the slip mechanic. Brawl
Well,
without the
if
slip
you've
mechanic
ever
is
seen
good.
Sakurai talk about Smash Bros, you can tell that there's a Nintendo like ninja right behind him, preventing him from calling it a fighting game or mentioning fighting game stuff ever.
That's why it was so liberating, like to watch him talk about Final Fight, or
Yeah.
sorry, Fatal Fury, because like Sakurai is obviously a fan of fighting games if he made a game like this.
Sakurai is a fucking gamer, bro. Like,
Like, oh, he grew up in Japan during the arcade boom of Japan. The mid to late 80s and early 90s was the arcade boom in Japan. The mid 90s was the arcade renaissance for us. Like, he grew up in the inception of arcades. So this is obviously going to be his bread and butter if he is a game developer. Especially since the motherfucker created Kirby back in 1992.
oh, Kirby games are known for hiding a bunch of hardcore stuff in them. Just
Yeah,
sneaking them in.
for fuck's sake, Fighter Kirby literally uses a Hadouken.
Have you ever seen how weirdly mechanically sound Kid Icarus Uprising is? That game could have been
Yeah,
a fighting game with how it works.
I don't know. I honestly don't know why they did not port that to a console
I
yet.
don't know
That
why they
feels like
haven't made a
waste of
sequel,
money.
goddammit.
Well, because nobody bought the main game because they put it on a handheld when it was meant to be on a console. Because that control stick on the 3DS is not built for a game that takes
That game was not made for left-handed people. There's no left-handed mode in that game, and it hurts my hand.
Fair enough.
Because what I have to do is I have to hold the stylus in the same hand that I'm moving pit with, and that's annoying.
That's got to be very difficult. Yeah.
And since a lot of things require the stylus to aim,
Well, I mean, what they need to do is they need to develop two separate kinds of DSs or handhelds or anything, or controllers that focus on either hand being the dominant.
oh, they added accessory that you could attach to it that gave a joy control stick on
That's
the other
not
side.
okay. That's not enough. Just develop two separate styles.
I know.
Like, you can do it in the same fucking factory, for God's sakes. It's literally the same
Well,
development
most
process.
games would allow you to control your character with the buttons if you had it in the settings. Kid Icarus Uprising didn't though.
Well, I mean, that is why the PlayStation controllers are so sound, because the format of their directional buttons and their regular buttons are similar. That's why the original version of those controllers were good for analog, but analog sucks for controlling anything that isn't a fucking side scroller.
Do you know what really annoys me about the Switch Joy-Cons? That they aren't mirrors of each other. So that way, when you take them off and use them as their own individual controller, like if you're playing two-player with someone, both players are playing with different controllers. Like,
You know
actually
what? I
different
never thought
controllers.
about that. You're right. That does suck.
And one of the control sticks will be on your right thumb, and the other control stick's on your left thumb. Guess what most gamers are good with? Left thumb control stick. So if you get stuck with the right thumb control stick, you gotta learn to control people with your right thumb. You know how many people are bad with that? A lot of people, because nobody fucking does that.
It's really bad dev stylization. Like, the Joy-Cons were a bad. They're probably the worst thing that the Switch has on it.
Oh.
But that's my gripe with Nintendo, is this whole thing is going to cut into creativity in a very damaging way, because they're willing to do this to a success at this point.
Oh, I can't remember the exact quote, but a lot of people are putting out quotes where, like, the head developers, like Shigeru Miyamoto and them, have explicitly said that they don't like doing this. And I'm like, well, you say that, but here you are suing.
Well, no, Shigeru isn't suing anybody. It's the shareholders. This is the board of directors, which Shigeru is not.
Ugh.
This is all their choice to do this. And of course they're going to. And there's nothing somebody like Shigeru Miyamoto can do to stop it.
That's
other than
true.
say, I'm done making games. But even if he said that at this point, he's already given them the golden goose and then a couple more. So, like, it wouldn't damage them at all. They'd probably be fine letting him go at this point. That's the rough position that, like, a creative man is in.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate, but, like, that's why corporatization of video game companies is so deadly. Because, namely, you also don't get listened to. Because you have a bunch of old fucks in a room who are old-minded that don't actually understand listening to your fan base is the way to make good games. That's why Larian being right directly to the creators was such a genius idea, and why it pissed everybody off was because all the big developers were like, well, we can't compete with this. And I'm like, no, you can't, because you have to answer to somebody that they obviously don't, which means that showcases that that's more successful.
Yeah. Turns out when you're making a creative thing, you should listen to creative people. Who knew?
Or just like allow your creativity to flow instead of having it be run through a filter, which tends to be what board of director style things are. A great example of this, I've bitched about this before, but Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. So if you know me, you know one of my favorite fighting game series is the Marvel vs. series,
Oh yeah.
because Marvel, it's a love letter to comics and fighting games. It just is good. It's fun. It's crazy. Marvel vs. Capcom 3 Ultimate is like a peak fighting game for me, and it ended on a high note. And I was super excited for Infinite, and I started to notice something during the dev cycle. Where's Doctor Doom? It's okay. Maybe they'll add another Fantastic Four member. They didn't add any more. Where's Wolverine? Wait a minute. Where's Wolverine? Cyclops? Storm? Magneto? Nothing. They took 2 whole teams out of the rosterage because Disney and their heads and Marvel and their heads, who were owned by Disney at the time, said no. Because we need to devalue these properties, we will not be putting them in this game.
Which
It doesn't
they
matter that
really
you want them.
didn't need to devalue the properties ever.
I mean, honestly, no, they didn't, and I'll tell you why. The movies were doing so bad, they were devaluing themselves. Like, X-Men's last movies, the last good one they had was Days of Future Past and Logan. But you know what they had in between those two? Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix, which were some of the most panned ones they've ever created. Single-handedly killed the First Class universe.
I'm thinking like to Sonic nowadays, and I've noticed a lot with like Sonic of recent things. We started with Mania. Sonic really has been pretty good lately of just letting people do whatever the fuck they want with the IP when they hand it off. And I got respect to that.
I relatively agree.
Have you read the comics, like the recent comics, the IDF ones? Holy shit, dude!
They're solid comics. What my issue is with it is they give Sonic and Shadow a bit too much Goku and Vegeta preferential treatment, and they're very, very clear about it just being a rip off of those.
That's true, but I also think that might just be the writers doing the writer thing.
Well, what I was going to say is it's basically training wheels for creativity. It's just taking 2 characters and copy pasting them. They have a lot less of I'm not asking for Urkel. Right? I'm not asking for Cartoon Sonic. That's no good. We don't need that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is the series where you collect 7 magical items of great power, and the main character's main power-up is to turn golden and super-powered?
Both the main characters, by the way. Both of them. Because they're both of the Hedgehog race.
Oh, yeah. To be fair, Shadow disappeared for a while there, so calling Shadow a main character.
Another weird thing I find with Shadow, by the way, is those rings are stupid.
Sorry, what?
They bind those rings are very stupid. They bind my power. I'm super strong without them. And I'm like, yeah, but are you fast without your rocket skates?
Well, the fun thing is that was only in Sonic 06, and they retconned the shit out of that, so it doesn't count. It's non-canon.
No, it's in the comics.
Oh, is it in the comics?
Yeah.
I forgot it. You're right. It was in the comics.
Yeah, the kid canonized the rings in the comics.
God damn it!
It's super stupid. It's like, but like he's the ultimate. Why? Why would you do that? If that was that's really counterproductive. Why'd you give him the rocket skates to speed him up? If you wanted to weaken him, why? You're giving me mixed messages, Gerald. The fuck is going on? Then you talk to the devil from the Bible, and then you fucking act like you're gonna kill everybody. Then you have to stop the devil from the Bible, but then you create a being to destroy the planet. Like, what is happening? in this series.
No. The beam was to destroy the devil from the Bible. He just also then went crazy and decided to destroy the planet with it.
Yeah, it's so fucking weird.
Retcons and rewrites. They're fun.
I mean, I'll be real. That rewrite literally almost killed us. It's like that in 06, 1-2 punch, baby. That almost did it. And then they put out Secret Rings. Oh, fuck. Then fucking Unleashed, half of that game was garbage. And then you fucking got Black Knight, which was garbage. Like, you have 5 whammies there before.
Hold on, I liked Black Knight. We've had this argument.
Matter objectively, it's not a well-made game.
Yeah, whatever.
It's not mechanically sound. It has issues with the whole concept of the character because it doesn't allow the concept to flourish. I'll tell you right now, if I were to put that back to back with Sonic Frontiers, I'll tell you which one I would say is more like Sonic. The one that allows me to keep running and immediately boost back into my speed demon phase again.
Oh, so Sonic and Black Knight.
No.
Listen, if you can't keep running in Sonic the Black Knight, you're not playing it right.
Well, here's what you're doing. You're not swinging your hand the entire time. That's what you're not doing, which is super intuitive.
You don't swing the sword. You push a button. Only certain action commands require swinging your hand.
That's not better. I think we had this argument where I'm like, that should have been the open game because, like, if you give me a sword with Sonic, why the fuck am I going in a straight line? That's a waste of a straight line. And also, I don't want an entire game based around the burst missions in Sonic the Hedgehog because it feels more like a burst section, but like an unfinished burst section from like Sonic Unleashed, and doesn't have that level like layerage that the day sections had to break it up. It feels like an unfinished burst section. That's my major issue. And a burst section that's too long is already a problem. But if it's unfinished, that's a whole other issue. But
God, I need to get around to my Let's Play of Black Knight when I feel like it.
If you drag me into that, I'm gonna be yelling.
No, I'm gonna force you to watch it though.
Don't you fucking dare! I don't want to suffer. But yeah, no. I mean, the big thing to note, and this can help pivot to the other thing I wanted to expound upon, because the video game market tends to fluctuate whenever one of the big video game developers is either thriving or not. Except for when the arcade games were a big factor in it, because like in the early 90s, it was actually like 50-50. Like legitimately, it was about $8 billion worth of revenue for arcade games and $7.5 billion for video games. Which those are both low, by the way, because they weren't like I'll give you an example. It wasn't until 2001 that the Game Boy Advance was released and all them that the U.S. market started really like hunkering down, and we pushed that up by like 4.5 billion.
Sorry, it's a little late. My brain didn't shift properly. What'd you just say?
So I was saying it shifts into the video market functions, where you have companies that do better, the better the market is. But like, unfortunately, because of the way exclusivity works in the market, and the fact that this is a capitalist dictated market, if a big video game company does something fucky, the market suffers. Or it does better, depending on where it is. If it's in America, it does better because we love people suffering. But like, if you're in Germany, the market suffers because Germany is very strict on their video game policies. But like, I'll give you an example. In 1992, the video game market was about 15.5 billion dollars. It looks like was the numberage, and it wasn't console specifically. This is split between consoles and arcade. So arcade was 8 billion and consoles was 7.5. If you go to 95, arcades actually go up to 10 billion because of us. Because in the mid 90s, we were allowed into the market more. Because you've got to keep in mind, they give us a lot of their arcade games. And a lot of our best arcade games are from Japan. We did not actually hit the market heavy with arcade games until 95, but we didn't actually hit the market heavy with console until '01 with the Game Boy Advance and all of them, where we actually pushed up the numberage by $4.5 billion. We basically gave them over 50% increase just by getting more heavily into the market share.
Oh yeah.
Which is which is indicative of the fact that Nintendo was doing really good because we were starting to play a lot of their more niche games at the time. We had more established IPs at the time. Like that's a big thing. Is there was years behind a lot of the games that we had played at the time, like Zelda and Mario had existed for a while. They were bringing back games like Fire Emblem was brought in. Pokemon had been around for a little while at the time, so they were making a new one at the time. Fucking a new Metroid game was coming out. It's like there was just a lot from their end, and on PlayStation's end, you had Final Fantasy X and their first MMO, and you had Halo. For fuck's sake, you had Halo come out so that added a new jumble to the market for the FPS genre. Just a whole lot of good like things that people were focusing on came out in that era, which is why the numbers went up so high because the number probably would have been equitable if it was only released where it was, but it was released over here now too, and it wasn't really vetted. It was just kind of no, we know these things, and like Fire Emblem, which wasn't released over here, was released over here now.
So sorry, this is a weird thing I want to bring up here. That kind of reminded me of something. People have been talking about the recent Astrobot game, right?
Yeah,
And one thing I've noticed is that Astrobot does a lot of what Little Big Planet does, where it like brings in a lot of collabs with other games and stuff. And I kind of
yeah.
realized something about a lot of PlayStation IPs. A lot of the
They
really
kind of
notable,
focused on
no, a lot of the notable characters and things that like the mascots of Sony, they're all old as shit. There's not a
yeah.
lot of
People
new.
don't realize God of War came out in 2003. Like that motherfucker's 20 years old.
Fucking Nathan Drake, Crash
Nathan Drake
Bandicoot.
is
It's like
Crash Banooka's the 90s,
there's
and
not very
Nathan
many
Drake is the late
new people
2000s.
here, and I think I noticed this.
We do have some now. We do have some now. So like Ghost of Tsushima, so Jin Sakai, and then you have Alloy from Horizon Zero Dawn. Those are new. Like
kinda,
you got to
yeah,
give
and
them
those
their
are
credit.
nice, but it's like, man, the compared to what we were getting for a while there, it's like that's a slow trickle. I think I noticed
I
that with
mean,
Nintendo
yeah.
too. It's like they push Splatoon so heavily because that's all they got for new shit.
Well, that's the problem. Is you settle until you're established. That's the danger. Like, and to be fair, Switch did attempt to make a new IP. It just didn't hit as hard as they wanted. It was ARMS. They attempted to make ARMS a thing, like Splatoon was, because Splatoon's Wii U.
I think the problem is Arms is kind of a trash fighting game, so
Well, I mean, that's the problem is they didn't make it party enough to be a fun game outside of a fighting game. Because if you're not going to make it a good fighting game, make it a fun party game. And everybody will play it. You know why? Because either way you win. That's Nintendo's motif.
oh
But
yeah.
they just didn't go far enough in one way or the other. And everybody noticed. Now,
Or
what I
they
will
could
say is
have,
character design is on point.
or they could go hard in both ways, like in Smash Bros. Like Sakurai tried to spend years off of his life doing.
Don't try to catch lightning in a bottle, man. It doesn't work out
I
for
know.
everybody.
Listen, Sakurai sacrificed like his soul for that man. He sacrificed his
Dude,
unborn children.
like Smash Brothers, like Sakurai has contributed nearly as much as Shigeru has. Like Sakurai made Kirby and he made Smash Brothers. Good for him. Miyamoto made Metroid, Star Fox, Yoshi, Donkey Kong, Mario, The Legend of Zelda,
Pikmin.
Pikmin. Pikmin's the weakest of them.
Miyamoto did make Legend of Zelda, but I think it was what's his name who really who really brought Legend of Zelda into what it was. Oh my god, I'm blanking on his name. Miyamoto hasn't done Zelda very much.
Inafune?
Yes.
I mean, I can kind of agree. I think a big thing to note, he had a So when he does have a connection to it, he does good work.
Yeah, I think
It's just
I
when
think
you
it's
make
weird to put that list, but it's like, well, no, Miyamoto hasn't actually worked on a Metroid game in like forever. Like it's like,
I mean, well, to keep in
he
mind, like
started the
being the
spark, but
creative
he
mind.
didn't put his soul into those franchises like
No,
Sakurai
he
did
was
to
a pretty.
Smash Bros.
He's been a pretty good. Well, to be fair, there were 5 or 6 Smash Brothers in total.
And each
And
one
there
took
have been
a lot of development time.
well, even just counting all the Mario games, take off.
Oh
That's
yeah.
what my example here is, right? But like we also have uh, we have like 4 Pikmin games, and then we have the side games for Donkey Kong, and then that takes all night. We have like 5 or 6 Star Fox games. We have at least 9 or 10 Metroid games. We have a lot of like counting the amount of Mario, Donkey Kong, and Legend of Zelda games would take all night. And that is what Miyamoto has attributed.
Oh
He's
yeah.
been a producer. Actually, he's been a producer on most of them, executive producer. He didn't like do the writing or anything, which I mean, oh no. But he has put work into that. I do think that like Sakurai has done more like hands-on work consistently. Like if we're talking percentages, he wins. But the amount of IPs Shigeru has behind under us and the amount of impact they had, untouchable.
Oh yeah.
There's nobody who can touch that. There's nobody who ever will be able to touch that. You made fucking Mario. You almost win off of that alone.
Yeah. Well, people still are worshiping Disney's name. You know, it's like with good reason.
I know, but like it'd be enough if he made him, but he made Dog and he made fucking Luigi, he made Link and Zelda and Ganondorf. He made Yoshi, and
Actually, I think
he made
Ganondorf was
Samus.
after Miyamoto stopped touching Zelda, so I don't know.
Well, I mean, Ganon was still around.
Yeah.
At the time. It might have been. Let me double check.
You know,
Curious.
Ganon was in the first game, but Ganondorf wasn't until Ocarina of Time.
Yeah, Ganondorf was Ocarina. Here, one sec. Because I am just curious. Who worked on the game? Let's take a peekity weekity. Yeah, no, he's a producer.
Well, producer just means he signed off on it.
Let me. Let's find out who crafted this man.
Who made Ganondorf?
Yeah, he was created by Shigeru Miyamoto.
Oh, was he made by Miyamoto? Oh well, shit.
Yeah.
All right, never mind.
So that's yeah, no, he's made a majority of the most iconic characters. The entire reason that Nintendo is able to coast basically on just these IPs alone. And I'll be real with you, they've got my money. They win this fight. And it pisses me off because they're doing shit like what they're doing to Palworld, and they'll still win this fight because they know I want it. If they released even just like one of the duo of like Twilight Princess or Wind Waker, they would have my money tomorrow.
I swear to God, every time I buy a new Pokemon game, I say it's my last one because it's still tracked. But sure enough, when the next Pokemon game comes out, you know I'm gonna fucking buy it.
And you know what sucks about this? Like people who didn't play when they were young don't understand the vibe. But like, there's a vibe Pokemon gives, even if it's garbage. You know what I'm getting at? Like,
Yeah.
like there's a vibe it gives.
Yeah.
It gives this vibe of childlike wonder.
I think that vibe is why it usually beats Digimon a lot of the time.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
but it's hard to say because you could say I like Digimon because it gives cannons to dinosaurs. It's like, yeah, that's awesome. But it's hard to say exactly the vibe why people love Pokemon the way it does.
I'll be real. The reason people don't let's be real. The games that are good, people the shit out of and laud them for, like the Cyber Sleuth games. Yeah, people love those two games so much, and it's because they were good. They loved the DS games that they made, the Dusk and Dawn. They loved those because they were good. But a majority of everything else they've made has been incoherent. Next Order was well received, because it was basically just a sequel to a
But here's the
remastering
problem. I could
of
say a
Digimon
lot
Pokemon.
of that also matches with Pokemon. Have you seen some of the shit Pokemon has came out with? Pokemon.
That's true, but I'll be real. Like the bar is way lower. The bar is way lower than Pokemon's ever has. Like it's not a question of character design. If we're talking character designs, I think Pokemon is beaten by Digimon every time. But it's all about story and gameplay. And Pokemon doesn't try to tell a story, but Digimon does, and they fail more, which is why they're worse at it. But it's at the same time, gameplay is more consistently okay with Pokemon than it is garbage with Digimon. So I mean that's my barrier here. It's an obvious reasoning too, as in the early aspects of the war they would have had that was imaginary because let's be real, Digimon cards only were out for 5 seconds and they were made out of paper mache. And any toys that they had were never sold at an actual store. If they were always too big to play with. Like if you're a kid, you play with toys in your tub sometimes.
So I think there's one thing I think you're kind of underestimating with Pokemon, and why a lot of people love Pokemon, even in just the design and like the overall design. People want to live in the Pokemon world. I think a lot more than they want to live in like a Digimon based world.
I'm not arguing about the world, and I'm just arguing about
Like I'm gonna be honest,
themselves.
I would want to hang out with a lot more of the Pokemon than I would want to hang out with most of the Digimon.
I disagree 100%.
There's a few Digimon I would want to chill with, but
I
like,
can actually talk to the Digimon. What do you fucking mean? I don't want to just have.
yeah, and Digimon are fucking annoying half the time. So you know what?
That's not true. That's not true at all.
Sometimes I want
The
them
only
to shut
ones
up.
that are the only ones are Tentamon and Etamon. And Etamon is annoying because he keeps being an Elvis impersonator, and everybody knows that he's not good at it. But like all the other ones are like you have Miramon. I mean,
I'm just saying, a lot of people would take a silent dog over an annoying talking human. So you know what?
But they're not silent, are they? They just say their name.
And dogs aren't silent either, but
than...
they still love them because they don't talk.
Right, but they don't say their name. They don't say their name all the time.
Pokemon don't say their name in the games, except for Pikachu. But that was
you're
just
right. You're right. They say a bastardized version of it.
They just make weird noises.
I would argue that I think companionship with like a friend is more important to some people. Like a friend that you can trust.
But that's what people have with Pokemon too, even if they're nonverbal.
It's right, but being verbal is obviously going to be effective for that type.
Oh, it can be, but I don't. I think Pokemon's done such a good job with it that I don't think it really matters. It doesn't matter.
I think the big thing to note here is I never stated the world itself wasn't bad. Are you construing that from what I'm saying?
I'm not saying the world, but I think a lot of people love to chill with Pokemon. I think the world...
I think there's no real chill with Pokemon. Most of them are wild animals, and they will actually kill.
Not the ones that you captured in your ball, they ain't. That's just it. They may be wild animals, but the moment they're in the ball, they're your cuddly friends, including the crazy ones like Tyranitar.
Right, but you would have to grow up in the world actually learning about how to utilize the items you use.
Okay, but here's this...
in the world do. Hold on. In Digimon, you need to know nothing. You just need to be like, hey, yo, you want to go grab a... Yeah, sure, whatever.
Hold on.
You have a dinosaur now. You have a fucking dinosaur now.
Two things. First of all, the fantasy of Pokemon is that you did live in the world, and yes, you already know all that shit, so yes.
No, I'm giving the prerequisite of just being us in these worlds.
Like, obviously, if you think about it too much, yeah, the world being full of angry monsters would be bad. But that's if you think about it too much, because that's not the fantasy. The fantasy is that you're friends with all Pokemon, and people love that.
Okay, so... wait, no, not all Pokemon. That would be awful. Don't do that. Oh, yes, my friend Dialga. Stop turning back.
Do you know how many people want to be friends with Dialga? People love Dialga.
Not many. Yeah, they like him in competitive, but they don't want to hang with Dialga. That's insane.
Yeah, hang out with the Time God, be pals with the Time God, tell the Time God what to do. Yes, because he's your pet and you can give him cuddles and hugs. Yeah, people actually do love that.
No.
The joke is that Mewtwo loves his palms rubbed because people love rubbing Mewtwo's palms in the Pokemon.
So, I would take Gatomon over Mewtwo any day. It's a cat that's like, hey, yo, what's up? I'll put your enemies for you. I'm also just a cat. Dope. And
I
it
don't
turned
know.
into a fucking angel. Jesse, it turns into an angel.
Uh-huh.
You bitch. It turns into an angel. And you can fuse it with a devil and make like a demon angel.
Oh,
That's
yeah, the
so
super
cool.
edgy one, yep.
Dude,
Hey,
that's
you
not edgy. It
know
has the
what,
angels.
do you know, Absol? It could become like a super edgy angel, too, so you got that in Pokemon, too.
Yeah, but it doesn't even get a fairy type, so it's not even what I want to see.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Like, in the fantasy, it would be a fairy type.
in the fantasy, it would be a fairy type. Well, in the fantasy of Digimon, there wouldn't be giant walking piles of poop talking to me, but there are, so you know what?
I mean, that is a downside, just like Muck is a downside in Pokemon.
Oh, yeah.
Or Alolan Muck, or coughing
Actually, a
and
Alolan
wheezing.
Muck apparently cleans the place, so you know what? Alolan Muck is actually
It
pretty
still
clean.
smells like, it probably still smells like shit. And also Macargo. And just fuck me, Macargo exists. You know, there's no Digimon that just by existing is hotter than the sun, Jesse. I'm sorry.
Okay, two
That
things.
one
First of all,
Pokemon
the
existed.
planet clearly hasn't melted in Pokemon, so whatever's going on with my cargo isn't that dangerous. Second of all, there are Digimon
It
that would
is.
totally fucking melt the planet if they could.
Which one?
Several.
Which one?
Didn't Lucemon try to destroy the world?
Lucemon did try to destroy the world.
And did he have the power to
Well,
do so?
Dialga. Well, Dialga. I'm saying existing Macargo destroys the world.
Uh-huh.
Lucemon actively sought it out. That's different.
That's worse, actually.
Yeah, I mean,
First of
it's
all,
almost like you have
Macargo
a
existing
Giratina.
clearly hasn't destroyed the world, so that's not actually a problem.
Let,
Second of
let,
all,
let, let me
Lucemon
count
has
them for you.
actively
Deoxys.
destroyed the world.
Let
So
me count them for you. Deoxys, Giratina. We have Tyranitar, Black Tyranitar. We have. Oh my goodness gracious! The entirety of the Elite Four. We have Team Plasma. We have Rainbow Rocket. We have Groudon, Kyogre. These are all world-destroying things that have actually tried to destroy the world and gotten close to it. Want me to continue? Because that's almost 10.
okay, first of all, Giratina never tried to destroy the world. He's just chilling in the
Giratina
distortion.
was locked away because Giratina would have...
Because he was violent, not
Giratina
because he
was locked-
destroyed the world.
Because he would have destroyed the world. He would have actively destroyed the universe
Never
because
said-
he is actually just the devil.
Uh-huh.
That's actively what he was doing in the distortion world. They were keeping him there because he destroyed the universe. In the movie, they even said the same thing. The whole point of the character is to just be the opposite of Arceus, but so just the devil.
Uh-huh.
Oh man. But either way, yeah, that shit they're doing with Palworld is fucked up, and I hope that they.
Oh yeah. Oh well.
But yeah. That was all I wanted to say tonight.
Yeah. Got you all on that Digimon hate rant.
Well, no, there are parts of Digimon I strongly dislike. As we said, the world of Digimon, the digital, is awful to look. Like, it doesn't have a lot of variety, and it's just they're in Japan, or they're in this grid-based system. That's boring. That is exceptionally boring. And I acknowledge that. The monster designs in the game series are very verbose and varied and interesting. And while there is Dookie,
and like
Dookie at least is
5
funny.
different forms of
Dookie
Agumon.
At least they're funny. You know, at least in canon they're
Yes,
hysterical.
Ice Hagumon is so hilarious. He's made out of ice.
Yeah, it's so fucking funny for no reason.
Uh-huh.
But like Sukumon is legitimately. You have a little mouse dude that hangs with him. You have Numemons. They're all goofs.
Oh wait, there's 2 different poop ones. There's also Metal Sukumon.
And there's also Platinum Numemon, who has a fancy mustache and all the jewelry and a crown and a cape, and it's fucking hysterical.
There's also Metal Edamon, also another recolor. A lot of recolors.
Have you seen Platinum Numemon?
Oh yeah.
It's the funniest thing.
That one's
And
fun.
I don't
See,
mind.
I like that one because it's not just a recolor. I'm talking about the recolors.
Oh, I don't relatively dislike recolors because the reason they keep is actually explained in lore. The only difference is what they're utilizing as like either their exoskeleton, which is closer to an evolution.
Mm-hmm. Anyways,
So
I'm
like
getting tired. I gotta
Meta-Etamon
go.
is
It's
equivalent
getting late,
physical.
Joey.
Okay, all right.
All right. Well, I hope you all enjoyed. See ya.
Night. Bye.
Bye.